So, this certainly is not the way I thought we'd be introducing this conversation into the forefront, but hey, let's go out there and review some of the responses that we had seen ever since the Edmonton Oilers re-signed Leon Draisaitl. They gave him a contract extension. It's huge. He'll be the highest paid player AAV-wise in the NHL in due time, and you know, circumstantially, I don't think it's an inappropriate contract. Sure, it's magnitudes above some of the other contracts that other players have, but Leon Draisaitl is just really good, and I think if you wanted to say owing it to the player is an appropriate move, yeah, no, you're totally owing to the player the amount of dollars that he had left on the table because of his $8.5 million contract that he had signed earlier in his career. Draisaitl's been one of the best players in the NHL. He has not been paid like it up until now. So, with him re-signing $14 million a year, this, of course, got the hockey world buzzing. And what I wanted to do was go over to an article published by Jim Matheson from earlier 2 days ago that goes over some Oilers notes. McTavish reflects on Draisaitl draft as number 29 signs a long-term deal. Now, I get it. It's Jim Matheson here that we're looking at, and Jim Matheson has a certain reputation amongst Edmonton Oilers fans and media. And, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that. It certainly does exist. But, in regards to Matheson's latest piece on the Draisaitl contract, I wanted to go out there and talk about some of these comments here. No, not the comments made by Craig McTavish, we can go over those in another video, but I wanted to go over what Matheson writes about Connor McDavid, because McDavid, of course, also needs a contract in a few years, and when you think about how Connor Mack is making 12.5, and Nate Mack is making 12.6, and Austin Matthews is going to be making 13, and now Draisaitl's going to be making 14, you start questioning, okay, so where is Connor McDavid going to lie in that respect? How is his contract going to fit into the grand scheme of things? Well, this is what Matheson goes out there and writes. Draisaitl will be making $14 million starting in 25-26. McDavid's contract extension can start after next season. The most a player can make is 20% of the overall team cap. But if it's $100 million by the time 97's contract kicks in, then he should be at $20 million. Next summer, Evan Bouchard needs a new contract, and it could start with a 10. So lots of high-end money and major juggle on the overall team cap, but that's the way it goes. Now pause. Okay. Sometimes you have to think, just because you could doesn't mean you should. And for Connor McDavid, it's already been reported that him, Leon, and Evan Bouchard have started to kick the tires and getting everybody interested in taking less money to help the team get a better chance at winning. I'm not going to go out there and say that Leon Draisaitl did or didn't do that, but I will say that if Leon Draisaitl was a free agent, there's no way he would have gotten only $14 million on the open market. He would have gotten 15.5, maybe even 16, given to him by a San Jose or a Boston. Him getting $14 million could be seen as maybe a bit of an overpay, considering he's literally the highest paid player in the league, but circumstantially, when you think about the alternatives, hey, he could have gotten more if he had just waited, so I don't want to say it's an overpay here. Is it a discount, though? That's another question. The fact that you could say Draisaitl would have gotten more in different circumstances gives the argument that this was a discount of a deal. But is it enough of a discount to really live up to the idea that Bouchard, Draisaitl, and McDavid were trying to perpetrate by saying that the discounts should be handed out, by saying that the team should be giving players less and that they should be happy with getting less? Honestly, probably not. Like, realistically, Draisaitl, you hear discount for Draisaitl, I don't think of a contract that puts him $700,000 above the second highest paid player in the league. I mean, it's still a lot, but contextually speaking is a little bit of a steal. So when you think about Connor McDavid going down a similar path, obviously the 20% rule of the salary cap isn't really something that we see utilized all too often. You would have to reserve it for literally the best player in the world. Connor McDavid is that, pretty much, and so does he automatically get a $20 million contract if you assume the cap goes to 100%? I mean, if you think about what it is right now the cap is at $88 million, so if you do 20% of 88 million, you have yourselves a $17.6 million AAV. And that's just assuming the cap stays at what it is right now. 17.6 for McDavid. Is that an overpay? Okay, maybe anything for McDavid isn't an overpay considering he's Connor McDavid, but like, you kind of get where I'm going at with this, right? If you wanted to talk about the Oilers giving guys discounts, or the players giving the Oilers discounts, excuse me, that doesn't really align. Like, a discount for McDavid would be $14.5 million, for example, or 15. Because if Draisaitl is the upper limit, then McDavid going above that by just $1 million or just $500,000 would be extraordinarily valuable for Edmonton. Using that 20% rule and kicking it up to $17.6 million, or $20 million in the case of a $100 million salary cap, would be absolutely nuts, and it would go totally against the idea of McDavid, Bouchard, and Draisaitl taking discounts. If you wanted to add everything together, let's say McDavid $20 million, Darnell Nurse at $9 million, Draisaitl at $14 million, and then you have Evan Bouchard at $10 as well. That's $30 million tied up into just two guys in McDavid and Bouchard, not even McDavid and Draisaitl. You add on the other guys too, and your core four all of a sudden costs $52 million. And if we're operating under the assumption that the cap is $100 million, that's literally 52% of your entire salary cap worth going to four guys. Toronto who? Sorry, did you say something? This just does not seem like an idea that Connor McDavid himself would even be okay with, considering his priority on being a winner with the Edmonton Oilers, right? So I could not see, like Jim Matheson writes out here, a $20 million contract, a 20% of the cap kind of contract, mostly because it's just too much, and it contradicts with all the other information we had been fed. Now, just to give a little bit of a positive spin towards the end of the video, there was another article actually published also on the Edmonton Journal by, I believe it was David Staples, who pretty much says that because Draisaitl signed his deal, it's pretty much a guarantee that Connor Mack is going to sign a deal too. You just got to wait it out. He's going to get it done. It's no biggie at all. The question is pretty much just the dollar amount, not whether or not it will or will not get signed, because it will. The Oilers are building something special here, and Connor McDavid is going to be a huge part in that. If he decides to up and away leave, then he'd be screwing over so many people in the process, including his buddy Draisaitl, who most definitely, committed to this team with the idea that Connor McDavid was going to do the same. You could say similar things about Evan Bouchard, you could say similar things about all the other names that have come in and around the Oilers bubble the past few months here, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the idea of Connor McDavid getting a $20 million contract on his next Edmonton Oilers deal. Do you see the possibility of a 20% salary cap dollar amount contract being put on the table, or is Jim Matheson out to lunch here? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Article will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read the rest of it yourself. There are some comments made by Craig McTavish, of course, who was in charge back in the day. But for now, thoughts in the comment section below about Draisaitl's contract and how it affects McDavid. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.